going to go into like how F1 actually works. So we're going to go into like just the idea of it in general, really. So that's how it started off. There's some historic moments and stuff. But now if we get on to what F1 actually is, we've got 10 teams, ranging from some of the ones we've already mentioned to other ones that are newer. They have, I don't know, billionaire owners and all of this, but we have 10 teams, and then each of them has 2 drivers, so that's 20 drivers in total. We have 23 races this year on the calendar, and your finishes in each of these races will give you points, and then at the end of the year, whoever has the most points wins. There are 2, 2 championships to win. The drivers, where your individual points are added up, and then, you win. Or you have the constructors, which was introduced in 1958, where you and your teammate, the 2 people in the same team, they have their points added up, and then that gets accumulated for the team, and then whoever has the most points out of that wins as well.
Yeah, I think, 2 things to mention. 10 teams is what we have now. We used to have a bit more, a bit less. And the 2 drivers, teams used to have a few more. They'd have 3 drivers at some point. That's just kind of what we have now.
Yeah,
it
this is
used
just
to kind of
stuff,
range. 22 races, that's just it used to be a lot less, but as time has gone on, the number of races has obviously gone up.
Yeah.
And the way the points are distributed is the higher you finish, the more points you get.
Obviously, yeah. We'll get onto the specifics.
I think it's just fair to mention that because a few people were confused by someone asked me recently, I don't remember who, but they asked me, it's how do they get points? And they're actually confused.
Okay.
Do you how the grid is set up? And it's do you win by do you win the race by timing, or do whoever finishes first and
now we'll get on that. So just to start off, we'll start off with the race weekend and then build up to the race and points afterwards. So we start off with just the race weekend in general. The race weekend starts on a Friday. You have 2 practice sessions. Thursday, which is just a media day, it doesn't really count. Exactly. They just go about doing media, they do interviews.
That's when the teams basically, they come in with generally speaking, the teams will plan a few months ahead about how they're going to get all their equipment to the country, and it's generally a matter of, depending on if the country's in Europe, there's going to be
trucks driving there.
Trucks driving there. If it's say Singapore or the US and stuff like that, they generally have ships going a few months before.
Yeah.
So the stuff gets there, I think, on a Monday or a Tuesday, and then they set up essentially from a Tuesday, and then everything has to be done by Friday night, where they set up the hospitality stuff, they set up the garage, the cars come in, all the extra
F1
stuff.
Sets up the directing and stuff, because they need a massive building to show stream the cameras to everyone.
Yeah, so basically that all is done the actual F1 weekend will probably start on a Monday or a Tuesday, but that's just the teams kind of getting everything ready for the actual race. Thursday is just this is most of them, except I think Monaco is a bit different.
Monaco does change things, but we'll just leave it general for now.
So generally speaking, the start on Monday, and then Thursday is media day, so you get kind of the drivers come in, and depending on the way they set it up, the Formula 1 kind of whoever, they put drivers together, so it'll be say Lewis and Verstappen or whatever. They did that at the end, I think it was for
it's so fit, it's meant to be random, but yeah, they did Horner and what's his name? Horner and Wolf were in the same one for that as well.
And then Lewis and Verstappen were this is random.
But so the first time you'll see cars on track, then, if you want me to word it properly, is Friday. They have 2 practice sessions, which are, I think, an hour long each now. They used to be an hour and a half, where it's not competitive. They just set times, they go around, they get used to the track layout and stuff. It's mainly just about gathering data. So they'll see how the tyres work, they'll see what it feels like, they'll try and set some good lap times. It's just general, it's to help set them up to find the strategy for the actual race. The interesting stuff is on Saturday. That's the first competitive session, and it's qualifying. So do you want to run through Q1, Q2, and Q3?
Yeah, so Saturday we have FP3, so the final practice session. And then the way qualifying works, yes, this is what my friend was saying as well. So the way qualifying works is you have 3 qualifying sessions, Q1, Q2, Q3. Q1 has all 20 cars, and then essentially they all go around, and there's like, I think it's like 20 minutes. Correct.
I want 18, I think.
18 minutes. So there you have like say 18 minutes where you can go at any point in time, and you set up your quickest lap essentially. And based on your quickest lap, the table is set, so P1 to P20. And then the last 5 are knocked out. So you have 18 minutes, you can go around the whole 18 minutes trying to set the fastest lap, or you can go around once or twice, it's up to you and your team. And like essentially it determines how many tires you use. So that's Q1. The last 5 are knocked out. So going into Q2, you only have 15 left. The last 5, that's their starting position unless penalties are applied. So Q2 is basically, it's a bit less, I think it's 15 minutes. The 15 left, like the cars left, they go out and set their fastest lap. And the same thing, and the last 5 cars are knocked out. And then the tire you qualify on in Q2, so if you qualify in Q2, that tire is the tire you start the race on.
If you're in the top 10.
If you're in the top 10, yeah. And then Q3 is the last 10 drivers. They go out and they set their best times. And this is where, like, if you're like a car in the top 3, this is the one that actually matters, because this is the one where you need to be first to start P1, or you want to essentially, that's the really critical one.
Yeah.
And that's how kind of the grid is set up from P1 to P20. Obviously, if you do something wrong, you can get a grid place penalty, which is they put after qualifying before the race. So say if I qualify on pole, I get like a 5 grid penalty for ignoring double waved yellow flags or something.
We'll explain that.
I'll go down from P1 to P5. So say I block another driver in qualifying, I'll go down from P1 to P3. So like whoever is P2 will go up to P1, whoever is P3 will go up to P2, and I'll go down to P3. That's kind of the way it works with penalties.
So
is kind of you go down.
So qualifying just answers the question, how do you decide who starts where? Because if you're starting at the front, you've obviously got an advantage. So what they do is they do this to decide what order they line up in for Sunday's race. That explained it pretty well. Just as a definition as well, pole position is just qualifying in first. So if you're starting in first on Sunday, you've got pole position.
Pole position is basically who's the quickest person.
So whoever sets the fastest time, you get
over one lap, he takes pole position. In qualifying, whoever sets the fastest lap over the course of one lap in the race gets the fastest lap of the race. That's a different thing.
Separate, we'll do that with the points. So then on Sunday we have the Grand Prix. It's the only event in the UK. It's normally around like 1 o'clock, like just middle afternoon. It can vary depending on time zones and night races and stuff, but normally it's around then.
It's a bit later if, like, say you have Singapore or the US, it will generally kind of...
Yeah, it'll shift things a little bit. Australia will also put it in the morning as well. Like places like Japan, they'll put it like morning races, maybe even 6 a.m. But it's normally quite good. It's an attainable time. The laps are decided based on the length of the track, so we have like a minimum distance to cover. So that's why there's different numbers of laps. It may look like a lot, like Monaco is 71, but Spa is 44. But it all varies. Like at the end of the day, they have a 2-hour limit. Most races are about 90 minutes realistically. So it's not that long, like realistically. It looks long, but it's not that long.
They have like 2 hours of like actual race time. So if there's like a red flag, or if the race actually, a red flag is where a race stops, that technically doesn't count from the 2 hours. They can go a bit over then.
But the 2 hours is just the TV slot they have to keep within now, because it was a rule introduced after probably the most entertaining race there's ever been, at least for me.
Which one?
Canada 2011. It's a quality race. Anyway, so that's the Grand Prix, there's the race. Whoever finishes first wins, and then based on your finishing position, after penalties obviously, the points are handed out. The point system then for the drivers is the winner gets 25, second gets 18, third gets 15, and then it goes... 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, 1.
Yeah.
So that's P1 to P10.
Yeah.
If you finish 11th or below, you don't get any points. So points are very important, especially for the drivers. If you want to win, it's important. For the constructors, they get prize money based on where they finish, just like the Premier League and other stuff like that. So the higher up you finish, the more money you get. So you want to be doing that. What else? We'll go with the calendar. If we want to move on to the calendar. So they acquire these points at the end of a race, then you move on to the next one. The stuff gets shipped, we move over, you start the race weekend again.
It used to be one like point fact about the points and like stuff like that is like, say for instance like Lewis Hamilton has like a crazy amount of points now compared to say Senna and even Schumacher and stuff, because like before that it used to be whoever won got only 10 points.
Oh yeah, they've been messing with the point system a lot.
So the point system has varied. Obviously the number of races also has varied. So if someone has driven in the past like 15 years, they will have a lot more points than someone who's won more, but who's done that say in the 80s or 90s or 70s or whatever, because they'll only have like per win they'll only get like 10 points.
Yeah, so F1 stats are always skewed in that way.
Yeah.
Same way we've said about Verstappen having the record for most podiums in a season.
Yeah,
when if you do it based on percentages, it's actually it would be Schumacher. But there's no way of like accounting for fairness and all of this with F1 stats because there's just so many variables. So the calendar, it's now 23 races. Tracks pay a fee to get on the calendar. They negotiate deals, and then they get rotated. So there used to be races in certain countries like South Africa.
That was a good race.
There were quite a few other ones, but they have them in places, and then a few years later they get dropped. Like Malaysia was actually a really good one, but they got rid of that recently. Nürburgring was on there. So yeah, there's quite. Suzuka should be coming back, but it's been out for COVID for a while.
So the race is coming back this year. China, Canada, and Japan, and one more race. They updated it. They just
Australia.
And Miami is the new one that's coming.
Miami's a new one we haven't been to before, yeah.
Yeah, but Japan is...
Singapore. Did you mention Singapore?
No.
Singapore is coming back as well.
Yeah.
Singapore's a good one.
I like how Russia's just a white flag. Like, as in there's such a nothing there.
Yeah, so those are the tracks. Some are better than others. Every single track is split into 3 sectors. It's about a third of the track, but it's to help with timings and safety. A sector is just... Yeah, the lines are shown, so if you say Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, it's just parts of the track. It helps with qualifying and it helps with race times. It just splits things up, so if it's like Red Bull are fast in Sector 1, they're fast in the first few corners. And then if Mercedes are faster in Sector 2, they're faster in the second.
Yeah, it's exactly like how like in football you have two parts of a pitch. Like you have that half and that half. Yeah. But it doesn't belong to anyone, but as in like essentially it's the same idea, but instead of splitting it into 2 halves, it's split into 3 thirds.
It helps safety-wise as well.
Yeah. So like, if there's an accident in like one sector of the track, everyone has to be very slow there because the marshals will be coming on the track to remove like debris and such. It's used also for like say qualifying. They compare like sector times. So like
do you want to explain the colours quickly? That's why I've put this bit down.
So.
Yellow the first one.
Okay, yeah. So yellow means that you haven't improved on your best time. Green means you're improving on your best time, but that means it's your own best time. It's a personal best, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Purple means you're quickest of everyone. That's why we have like the purple here.
That's the explanation of the colour for our logo.
Yeah, so this is for sector times. In terms of like, so if you get purple, you're quickest of everyone. You can get green, purple, and still be quickest of everyone. It depends. Obviously, like certain sectors will play more, like they'll be more critical to lap time than certain sectors depending on the track and conditions and such. So yeah, that's basically everything.
Yeah, so that's sectors explained, and then we've done the point system. If we just